Imagine stepping into a dusty, windswept land where the promise of untold riches hangs heavy in the air. A land where fortunes are made, but at a staggering cost. Picture this, the world's most precious gems buried beneath your feet, just waiting to be discovered. This is the story of the diamond and gold rush in southern Africa, where dreams of wealth would change the course of history forever. But what exactly led to the explosive rush for these treasures? Why did so many flock to the mines of southern Africa, risking their lives in the pursuit of wealth? What happened to the people who found themselves caught up in this whirlwind of greed and ambition? And more importantly, who truly benefited from this race to riches? To understand the diamond and gold rushes, we need to travel back in time to the late 19th century. At the heart of this incredible transformation was the discovery of two resources, diamonds and gold, that would forever alter the political, social, and economic landscape of southern Africa. From the birth of the mining industry in places like Kimberley and Johannesburg, to the rise of global trade empires like De Beers, the rushes set the stage for a new world order that shaped the region for generations to come. In 1867, a pivotal moment in history occurred in a small, remote part of South Africa. A boy named Erasmus Jacobs discovered a shiny, smooth stone along the banks of the Orange River. Little did he know that humble find would ignite one of the most significant rushes for wealth the world had ever seen. This was the birth of the diamond industry in southern Africa, an industry that would eventually lead to the creation of Kimberley, the city of diamonds. Jacobs's discovery was initially just a curiosity, a simple stone. But soon after, his find was identified as a diamond. Word spread quickly, and before long, prospectors from all corners of the world arrived in the region to see for themselves. By 1871, the first large-scale diamond rush was underway. But this was just the beginning. In 1873, a far larger and more significant discovery was made in Kimberley, where massive diamond-bearing deposits were found deep beneath the surface. The discovery in Kimberley changed everything. Prospectors and miners descended on the area in droves, eager to stake their claim in the burgeoning industry. It was a frenzied gold rush-like atmosphere. A town that had once been little more than a dot on the map, transformed almost overnight into a thriving mining hub. This was where the future of the diamond industry was forged, where fortunes were made and entire lives altered in a matter of months. But the diamond rush wasn't just about finding riches, it was about control. Soon the De Beers Consolidated Mines Company, founded by none other than Cecil Rhodes, emerged as the dominant force in the industry. By the late 1880s, De Beers controlled around 90% of the world's diamond production. Rhodes' monopoly over the diamond market would not only define South Africa's mining sector, but would also have lasting effects on global markets and geopolitics. As the rush for diamonds accelerated, the indigenous populations found themselves pushed aside. The land around Kimberley was not uninhabited. Local African tribes had lived there for centuries, but the growing demand for labor led to a tragic shift in their lives. Thousands of African workers were brought in to work the mines, often under brutal conditions. They lived in harsh, overcrowded conditions and were paid a fraction of what the European miners and landowners earned. At the time, many indigenous people were forced to work under systems that favored the mine owners, underpaid, underfed, and subjected to long hours. The diamond rush, while a source of immense wealth for a few, left a legacy of exploitation and inequality that would ripple through the centuries, deeply influencing the social fabric of South Africa. A decade after the diamond rush began, the world witnessed another earth-shattering discovery in southern Africa. In 1886, in the heart of the Witwatersrand region, an area later known as Johannesburg, gold was discovered in what would become one of the largest and richest gold fields in the world. This discovery would change the trajectory of South Africa's future once again. Unlike the diamond rush, which had drawn prospectors from far and wide, the gold rush would fuel an industrial revolution in South Africa. Within just a few years, Johannesburg transformed from a dusty, remote settlement into a bustling metropolis. The news of the gold find spread like wildfire, attracting thousands of fortune seekers from across the globe. Entrepreneurs, engineers, and workers arrived in search of wealth and opportunity. But the gold rush wasn't just about striking it rich, it was about building a new empire. Soon, Johannesburg became a central hub for trade, finance, and industry. The arrival of railroads to transport the gold to the coast made the city even more pivotal. The once quiet region was now home to a massive urban center, with towering buildings and industrial factories that seemed to rise from the ground overnight. As the city grew, so did its importance on the world stage, attracting foreign investment and labor from across Europe, China, and Africa. A new class of wealthy, influential individuals known as the landlords came to dominate the gold industry. Names like Cecil Rhodes, Barney Barnato, and Sir Alfred Beit became synonymous with power, wealth, and ambition. These men, originally from humble backgrounds, had seized the opportunity presented by the gold rush to build vast fortunes. Rhodes, in particular, was a central figure in the shaping of modern South Africa. His fortune came not only from gold, but also from his vast land holdings and his establishment of De Beers as a global diamond monopoly. The landlords controlled not just the gold mines, but also the infrastructure, railways, and banks that made Johannesburg tick. They wielded immense influence not just within South Africa, but also internationally. Barnato and Beit were just as ambitious, and together, the landlords represented the intersection of entrepreneurial spirit, aggressive capitalism, and colonial expansionism. While they amassed incredible wealth, the true cost of their empire was paid by the African laborers who worked the mines under harsh and exploitative conditions. The gold rush saw the development of new mining technologies, including more sophisticated extraction methods that allowed miners to dig deeper into the earth. The gold in the Witwatersrand was buried far below the surface, requiring innovative methods like deep-level mining to reach it. This technology allowed the mines to operate around the clock, increasing production but also leading to more dangerous conditions for the workers. At the same time, mining companies began to adopt more modern machinery and management practices, making the industry more efficient and highly profitable. While the landlords grew richer, the labor force, consisting mainly of African workers, remained impoverished and underpaid. The exploitation of cheap labor was central to the success of the gold rush, and the harsh conditions of the mines led to numerous protests and strikes over the years, though little changed for the workers themselves. The discovery of diamonds and gold in southern Africa wasn't just a boon for local economies. It was a catalyst for further colonization, as the wealth from these resources flowed into the hands of European settlers and mining magnates. British colonial ambitions were revived. In 1877, only a few years after the discovery of diamonds, the British annexed the Orange Free State, followed by the annexation of the Transvaal in 1878, 1878. The British Empire, seeking to secure control over the booming mining regions, increased its influence over the area, ultimately leading to the creation of the Union of South Africa in 1910. The discovery of these valuable resources made Southern Africa a critical piece of the global imperial puzzle. For the British, controlling the mines meant controlling the wealth of the empire. The presence of wealthy mining tycoons like the landlords added further pressure on the British to solidify their political control. This period set the stage for political battles, including the infamous Anglo-Zulu War in 1879 and the Boer War in 1899 to 1902. These conflicts were in part about securing control of the mining regions, with British and Boer interests at odds over who would control the diamond and gold mines. While the diamond and gold rushes led to prosperity for a select few, the wealth did not trickle down to the majority of South Africa's population. Instead, the rushes entrenched a system of racial inequality and exploitation. As European settlers grew wealthier, African laborers were systematically oppressed and forced into labor. The British and Dutch-descended Afrikaners, who dominated the mines, relied heavily on a massive influx of African workers who were often coerced into dangerous and poorly paid jobs. These workers were subjected to grueling conditions, living in overcrowded compounds and receiving meager wages. Despite the wealth generated from their labor, African workers had little control over their circumstances. The mining industry set the tone for decades of economic disparities, where the workers, largely black, remained at the bottom of the social ladder, while the white elite thrived. The labor system that emerged became a defining feature of South African society, culminating in the harsh segregationist policies that would later evolve into apartheid in the 20th century. The impact of the rushes on indigenous African communities cannot be overstated. While many indigenous people initially worked the land as farmers or cattle herders, the arrival of the European settlers and the sudden demand for labor on the mines drastically altered their way of life. As European settlers took control of the land, the indigenous populations were pushed off their ancestral lands, often forced into labor on the mines in conditions that stripped them of their dignity and autonomy. The African laborers who worked the mines were often under the control of a system that enforced strict hierarchies, where Europeans were at the top and Africans were relegated to the most dangerous, lowest-paying jobs. The colonial government, in partnership with the mining industry, further marginalized indigenous populations by creating laws that restricted their movements and rights. While the diamond and gold rushes created immense wealth for a few, they also exacerbated the divisions within South African society. A stark divide emerged between the elite, who controlled the mines and reaped the rewards, and the working class, which consisted mostly of indigenous Africans and a few impoverished whites. This division laid the groundwork for future tensions and conflict in the region. The prosperity of the white elite was built on the backs of African laborers, creating an enduring legacy of inequality. As the mining industry grew, so did the political and economic power of the white settlers, a class that would continue to dominate South Africa's political system for decades. Meanwhile, the African working class remained oppressed, with little hope of advancement or access to the wealth that their labor had created. The discovery of diamonds and gold in southern Africa sparked a period of rapid economic growth that would fundamentally transform the region. The sheer scale of mining operations and the vast quantities of resources extracted from the earth created an economic boom unlike anything seen before. By the turn of the 20th century, South Africa had become one of the world's largest producers of both gold and diamonds. This new wealth allowed for an explosion in industries connected to mining. Railroads, banks, manufacturing, and trade all flourished. South Africa's mining industry attracted investment from both local and international sources, and the country's economy shifted from an agrarian-based system to one driven by mineral extraction. The growth of cities like Johannesburg, which sprang from the heart of the goldfields, was directly tied to this economic boom. This shift created a new, rapidly growing middle class, made up of entrepreneurs, engineers, and bankers, all connected to the mining industry. The wealth generated from the diamond and gold rushes didn't just sit in the hands of the mine owners and investors. It fueled massive infrastructure projects across the country. The demand for transportation and communication networks skyrocketed as the mining operations expanded. Railroads were constructed to transport gold and diamonds from the mines to ports on the coast, while telegraph lines were installed to facilitate communication across long distances. Johannesburg, in particular, saw rapid urbanization. What was once a small settlement became a thriving city, with banks, businesses, and schools popping up alongside the mines. Infrastructure like roads, power plants, and water systems were built to support the growing population, and the economy expanded beyond just the mining sector. But while these developments benefited the European settlers and wealthy mine owners, the indigenous populations who worked on the mines saw little in terms of development or social mobility. The wealth generated by the gold and diamond industries helped build the country's infrastructure, but it was built on a foundation of inequality. The economic boom from South Africa's mining industry had far-reaching effects on the global economy. South Africa became a major player in the global diamond and gold markets, with both resources becoming key commodities in international trade. The wealth generated by these industries allowed the country to establish economic ties with the rest of the world, particularly with European powers, the United States and Asia. Diamonds, particularly from Kimberley, became highly coveted luxury items, and the gold extracted from the Witwatersrand powered the global gold standard. These resources contributed to the growth of stock markets and financial institutions, as companies like De Beers and Anglo-American Corporation expanded internationally. The role of international trade in the success of South Africa's mining industry cannot be overstated. It ensured that the region would remain a crucial economic hub for decades. But as wealth flowed outward from the mining regions, little of it was reinvested into improving the lives of the workers who made the industry so profitable. The diamond and gold rushes of the 19th century didn't just shape the economy, they laid the foundation for the socio-political structure of modern South Africa. The wealth from these industries, concentrated in the hands of a few, exacerbated social inequality, setting the stage for the apartheid era in the 20th century. The racial disparities that emerged from the mining industry's exploitation of African workers would only deepen over time, with the white elite consolidating political and economic power. Today, South Africa's economy is still deeply influenced by its mining legacy. Although the country is no longer the world's top gold producer, mining remains a key part of its economic structure, employing millions and contributing significantly to GDP. However, the legacy of exploitation and inequality continues to haunt the country, with many former mining towns struggling with poverty, unemployment, and environmental degradation. In addition, modern South Africa still wrestles with the impact of the mining industry on its people. The social and economic divisions that were created during the rushes are a constant reminder of the deep-rooted inequalities that continue to affect the country. The history of the diamond and gold rushes, while offering tales of riches and ambition, is also a history of exploitation and struggle that is still felt today. One of the most enduring legacies of the diamond rush is the rise of De Beers. Founded by Cecil Rhodes in the late 19th century, De Beers quickly monopolized the diamond market, controlling production and establishing the brand as synonymous with diamonds worldwide. By the 20th century, De Beers was responsible for the vast majority of the world's diamonds, controlling supply, setting prices, and shaping consumer perceptions of diamonds as the ultimate symbol of wealth and status. Even today, De Beers' influence in the diamond market is still felt, although the company's grip has loosened in recent decades with the rise of other diamond producers. However, the De Beers monopoly was not without controversy. The company's control over the diamond trade perpetuated a cycle of inequality and environmental degradation. Furthermore, the company's controversial involvement in the exploitation of African laborers and its involvement in the blood diamond trade continues to be a stain on its legacy. De Beers' dominance in the diamond industry, while revolutionary in many ways, was also emblematic of the broader themes of control, power, and exploitation that characterized the rushes. It's a legacy that has shaped not just the diamond trade, but the broader global economy and our perception of wealth, status, and value. The diamond and gold rushes of Southern Africa weren't just a regional phenomenon. They had global repercussions that reverberated throughout the 20th century. The wealth extracted from South Africa's mines transformed global trade, with gold becoming the standard for international currency, and diamonds solidifying their place as the ultimate luxury good. Beyond the economic implications, the rushes also had profound social and political effects on the global stage. The economic systems established during this period of exploitation and inequality provided a blueprint for the global capitalist economy. The social hierarchies entrenched in South Africa, particularly regarding labor, would echo in other parts of the world, where industrialization relied on cheap labor and exploitation. The legacy of these rushes is not just one of wealth, but also of the deep social scars they left behind. For millions of African workers, the promise of wealth never materialized. The cost of the diamond and gold rushes was paid in human lives, dignity, and land. And this cost continues to shape the modern-day challenges of inequality, environmental damage, and social justice that South Africa faces. The diamond and gold rushes of Southern Africa are more than just tales of treasure hunters and wealthy magnates. They are stories of ambition, exploitation, and transformation. These rushes reshaped the economic landscape, not only of South Africa, but of the entire world. The wealth extracted from these lands changed the global trade systems and sparked an era of industrialization. Yet this prosperity came at an incredible cost: the exploitation of labor, the oppression of indigenous populations, and the deepening racial and social inequalities that would echo for generations. As we look back on the legacy of the rushes, it's impossible to ignore the shadows they cast over South Africa. The wealth generated by diamonds and gold didn't just transform the country, it also deepened the divisions that persist to this day. The story of the diamond and gold rushes is a reminder that the pursuit of wealth, no matter how glittering, often carries with it the weight of those who have been left behind. If you found this story fascinating and want to learn more about how history continues to shape the world we live in today, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We have many more incredible stories to share. Stay tuned for our next deep dive into the events that changed history forever.